I'm Mr. Brooke Kiefer, and I'm here to tell about the corruption of law enforcement, child services, and domestic relations here in Somerset, Pennsylvania. On December 22nd, 1977, over 3,200 Somerset children were wrongfully taken by child services and placed into wrongful foster homes by Clifford Cook of Child Services, Judge Shawless, and Police Alfred Brock. For example of this was my brother Timothy was placed under the household of Irene Davis, who also housed sex offenders, people who were suicidal, and people who set fires. As for my younger brother Lonnie, he was in a good home with Roger Kellahall, where he was taken care of. And as for myself, I was mostly in hospitals because I could not adjust to other homes. As our mother Virginia and grandmother Avalon regained custody, I was the first to return home. Our father Steve Chips was abusive, so our mother left him in 1976. And because of the abuse, my mom had seizures as well as my two brothers. As our mother regained custody of my older brother, she would have to take pills, knives, and other things from my brother because he would try to do things with them because of the abuse he had sustained under the household of Irene Davis. Since 1977, we had to go to mental health meetings as we were harassed by police and child services. In 1989, at 132 Canal Drive, my brothers got into a scuffle over a pair of spandex shorts. Since our mother worked at night, our grandmother would babysit us. She ended up leaving the residence, and since I was known for skipping school, my older brother tried to take me to school physically. As the door was open, police Jason Hunter, who also works for the DA office, punched me in the face, forcing his way into the residence with other police. At that point, Jason Hunter would threaten and push my older brother until he went into a seizure. As my brother was in a seizure, the police assaulted my brother to the point he could not breathe. My younger brother Lonnie grabbed police for the safety of my older brother. Then they were taken to juvenile placement facility treatment centers. When our mother came home to find this out, she had our grandmother leave and started to stay with an older gentleman to go to bars, so I was on my own. Later in 1989, I too was sent to these places where there was wrongful treatment, where I was sent to mental hospitals, and because of treatment, it left me unable to reproduce. In 1993, when I was sent home to live with my grandmother, because our mother was unfit, I kept up with school, medication, and meetings. In 1994, my illness was escalated when finding my older brother dead in his apartment. And with many signs of foul play, no proper investigation was ever conducted by Brad Kramer, who is now Sheriff of Somerset, also stolen evidence from a murder scene. Because of this, I applied for SSI benefits. In 1996, Amanda Davis started hanging out at my grandmother's at 114 Oak Street, stating she was being sexually touched with her sister by their father, James Davis, in Myersdale, PA, to scam my grandmother to let her stay. Many times my mother and I would make her leave. On many occasions, we turned them into child services. As there was an investigation, Amanda would leave. Then her parents or drug friends would drop her off at our neighbors or to wait for us to return home to scam my grandmother to let her stay. One weekend, Amanda was dropped off with suck marks on her neck and a white discharge, claiming it was from swimming when she went camping with friends. Since she continued to scam my grandmother to let her stay, I was forced to move with my dad, and once they found out where I was, she would be dropped off where I was at the residence. Once she would be dropped off, she would leave to her other relatives, then be dropped off days later. I was then harassed into marriage, not knowing she was pregnant. When finding out she was pregnant, I tried to have the marriage stopped with an annulment, but she refused to sign the papers. Her parents would take her 30 miles for checkups, knowing I had no transportation to get any medical information. On May 29th, 1997, she had her kid where she was permitted to forgerize my name because I was entrapped into marriage. When I was able to get to the hospital, I requested DNA testing where I was denied. One day after Father's Day, I was arrested because Amanda was laying around with a drug addict and committing adultery. As I was out on bond, I was harassed to go back with Amanda or the charges against me would not be dropped. As I was forced to live with her and her parents while waiting for a decision for SSI benefits, I was harassed into getting work while disabled. In 1998, I left her because of mental illness and her drug use and adultery. She went to stay with her parents to use drugs under their household and going out with men. Amanda ended up being with a guy who sold and used cocaine and heroin, name classified. And one night the door was kicked in where the person was assaulted because he informed on the two people. With that knowledge of police and child services, and child was not safe, Amanda took Himes to Mississippi to continue drug use and had sexual relations with her uncle. Once returning to PA, Amanda went to file for child support, where I once again requested DNA and I was denied. Since I was permitted visitation, they had her file false protection from abuse orders. Not because of abuse, but to prevent me or my mother from getting visitation so I could not get my own paternity testing. Once returning to PA to live in Johnstown to continue her drug use, Amanda slept with numerous men for drugs. Amanda then went to live with her parents, went to live with Steve Chips to use drugs, then went out with two guys to an abandoned house to use drugs and sexual relations, then back to her parents. She ended up with another drug addict, name restricted, where they would abuse the kid to make him go to bed at night so they could use drugs. On December 24th, 1998, Amanda was cheating on this guy where she stabbed him. As Amanda was sent to the mental ward, then jail, Child Services violated the child's safety and my rights by giving her parents custody of the child, knowing there were drugs used underneath their household, neglect, and abuse in Myersdale, Pennsylvania. When Amanda was released, she lived with her parents and ended up with a sex offender, name classified, who was never convicted. In 1999, Amanda was permitted to forgerize a divorce decree represented by Legal Aid Services and authorized by Judge Casio because of the fact she was pregnant to this guy, knowing it was fraudulent. Also in 1998, I was informed by witnesses that Amanda did not go to camping in 1996. In fact, she went to a house party using drugs and alcohol and sexual relations with an animal. On September 3rd, 2002, I was violated by domestic relations by putting me in jail until December 1st, 2002, while awaiting SSI benefits. On 2004, I was granted benefits, and since she was not entitled to anything, she violated a PFA order where I had to use my money for legal counsel to live back with my family. In 2005, I left to leave for the South to volunteer help with the Katrina cleanup work. And when she found out, she had domestic relations, harassed me, violating federal acts underneath Section 1602 and Section 1614A, 3 capital A of the Social Security Act, as well as the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, that forced me to return to Pennsylvania. I stayed with my mother until I was able to afford my own place to live. In June 2009, I accidentally smoked up my place. Once released, where I had to go to jail. Once released, I had to stay with my mom till she got ill. On January 22nd, 2010, I had to take my mom off life support. I was nice to call them, Amanda and her parents, to let them have the kids see my mom before she passed. The Davises caused a disturbance at the hospital where I left a threatening message on their answering machine. While waiting for my case, Judge Cassio had Rebecca Boyer from adult probation threaten me out of a jury trial. I did violate probation by drinking and forced to jail. While in jail, Matt Zatko had his workers steal everything from the trailer where I lived, from antiques to clothing and everything that was in the trailer. Once released, the place was unfit to live in. In 2013, I went to get help. Then once released, I stayed with my brother until getting my own place in 2014. On October 5th, 2016, my brother was intoxicated and hit by a car. I was assaulted by police as I checked on my brother. In 2017, the landlord, Craig Rossman, stolen things from the basement at 627 North Center Avenue. So I refused to pay. In 2018, I had to stay with my good friends Kevin and Joanne. I got a place at 244 Rebecca Street where my brother and I went to get my cats. I got into an argument with an owner of a dog that was being abused. I went to the hearing, then court. My rights to the Sixth Amendment and a jury trial was violated. These violations have been going on since December 22nd, 1977, and it's only right that the corrupted officials of this town, from police to child services to domestic relations to the Davises who now live in Boswell, Pennsylvania, that go to the Church of God. And the scam was that since I was paying child support payments, they had her file PFA orders to prevent paternity testing. That is a scam, which is Fletcher Stafford, Jeff Petrilla, and the courts of common pleas. This corruption has been going on for quite some time. And as well as the Somerset Borough Police, they should be investigated for stealing evidence from a murder scene April 1st, 1994, of the death of Timothy Allen Kiefer. Thank you.